Live from Hollywood, it's the Billy Masters Show. And now, please join us in welcoming the star of our show, Billy Masters.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday, March 31st. See, I've got to look because I don't know what day it is. Is everybody else having the same amount of trouble as I am trying to just keep track of what day it is? Because I really, every day kind of seems the same to me. We are in day, I think somebody said day 15 of the quarantine. And of course, we've got another month of this. So get settled in, kids, because we're here. We're here for a while. Oh my God, texts are already starting to come in. But what I wanted to mention is change happens. And if you look back at the last few years, particularly in the gay community, but I'm assuming in the whole world, we've actually been quarantining ourselves for a while now. Nightclubs are busier. People don't meet in a person. They meet online. People hook up online. So really, this is nothing unusual to a lot of you whores out there. But don't meet up. You know, in the city I live in, or where I'm staying with my parents in Massachusetts, our mayor calls us every day or two. She's a woman. She's not hot like any of those Cuomo brothers. Chris Cuomo, positive. You see? Anderson Cooper was the one that was staying home first. Now you got Chris Cuomo. Has somebody checked on Wolf Blitzer? How's Wolf doing? Anyway, we are in the city here with my parents. The mayor calls like every day. And at first she was telling people, she was very calm. She was telling people to stay home, to quarantine, that we'll all get through this. I think the city had like 7 cases of coronavirus that people have tested positive in. Yep, somehow this little city has tests. LA, no tests. Oh, thank you. Our guest from Thursday has already clicked in to just say hi. And she was telling people to go out and take walks and to have what they call passive exercise. Do you know how many friends I have in West Hollywood who've been having passive exercise for decades? So anyway, this woman was saying all that, and she was explaining that you had to obviously keep social distance, go out, get some exercise, but be safe. Then the next day she called and said, just a reminder that the parks are open for people to walk, social distance, don't get near each other, be careful, not playing team sports, anything. Then Saturday, we got another message that said, look, I've driven by these parks. I see people are having pickup basketball games, and that is not allowed. And if you push me, I'm going to shut all the parks down. So, and I think, didn't I hear somewhere, maybe it was in New York, that people were using zip ties on the end of basketball hoops to prevent people from playing basketball. So look, don't be stupid. All of you, be careful. I mean, I realize that we're all, bored. I mean, if you weren't completely bored, you wouldn't be watching the fabulous Billy Masters show. I'm fixing the camera. So just figuring my angles, angles really important. So what I got was a bunch of emails from people wanting me to tell like celebrity stories, encounters with celebrities. So today's little monologue is going to be about the late Diane Carroll. Don't ask me why. It was just the first one that came to mind. Now I know I have a friend who's going to say to me, could you find somebody born in this century? But you're getting Diane Carroll. That's it. So Diane Carroll and I had met a few times casually in Boston and New York. Water, hydrate. By the way, these bottles that I'm in love with, number one, they are plastic, but I refill them constantly. And they're from Italy. So see, I'm drinking the coronavirus, but they're not corona. These bottles I'm obsessed with. I spend most summers in Italy, and I love these bottles because they've got a big mouth There you go. Leave it to Billy Masters to tell you he loves a big mouth. That you can put ice in, and I can just pull the spout up and down. Anyway, you don't care about my bottles. So anyway, Diane Carroll. So we had met a bunch of times in Boston and New York, and I was in LA before I moved there for one of the like a scouting trip. I had been very comfortable with LA. I was looking at apartments, and a friend of mine had invited me to stay at his house because he was going to be away for a while. So one night I decided to go to the movies in Century City. Those of you from Los Angeles will know Century City. And um, I was going to see, I know this is so ridiculous to admit, I was going to see Kim Basinger and Val Kilmer in The Real McCoys. I know, look, it's so ridiculous to even admit this, but it's true. So I'm in line to buy a ticket to see The Real McCoys. And suddenly I see Diane Carroll with glasses and a little babushka on her head go to the back of the line. So again, this is one of those things I do to people, even if I've only met them a few times. I have a way of sounding overly familiar. So I say, "Hey, Diane," like we're best friends. And so she looks and says, "Oh, hi," in that mindless way that they do. See, the big stars will pretend like they remember you because they never want to act as if they don't remember you. Joan Rivers taught me that. She said, what you don't say is nice to meet you. What you say, and Charles Busch, who'll be coming on soon, will corroborate this. Joan Rivers would always say, nice to see you, or so good to see you, because see you is ambiguous. Diane Carroll wasn't that snappy. So she would just go, "Oh, hi." And I'd say, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Well, I'm taking my mom to the movies. And so I'm waiting in the line." And I said, "Well, get up here with me," because I'm practically at the front of the line. And she did. And she said to me, "The manager here, I come here all the time. And the manager here always says to me to just ask for him or go to the front of the line. But darling, I don't like to do things like that." I said, "Okay." So I said, "What are you seeing?" And she said, "Well, my daughter is going to school in New York. And she told me we should see the Joy Luck Club, that it's a beautiful film for mothers and daughters." So I got my mother sitting over there. Now I knew everyone was talking about the Joy Luck Club. And I'm there to see Kim Basinger and Val Kilmer in The Real McCoys. So she says to me, "What are you seeing?" Now I've got two choices, and one is not possible. I cannot say to Diane Carroll, "I'm here to see The Real McCoys," because she's going to look at me like I'm insane. So I said, "What a coincidence. I'm here to see the Joy Luck Club as well." So she said, "Oh, well, isn't this wonderful? We're all seeing the Joy Luck Club." So we get to the front, we get 3 tickets for the Joy Luck Club. We go over and see Mrs. Johnston, her mother, who is lovely. And I think Diane kind of thinks that we're going to say, "Okay, we're all going to the same theater. Have a good night." But I now have it in my head. I'm going to see the Joy Luck Club with Diane Carroll and her mother. And I'm going to have a mother-daughter experience with 2 generations of Carrolls. So we stop, we get popcorn. And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, good, whatever. See you later." We walk into the theater and I'm still there. Then we go to a seat and a row, and I'm still there. And I'm sitting there, and I know Diane Carroll's thinking to herself, "Oh, Jesus, now I'm stuck with this queen watching the Joy Luck Club." So every once in a while, there are the touching moments, and the Mama Johnston would go, "Diane," and they touch hands. And I would take Diane's hand and go, "Oh, Diane." And she's like, "Am I having a mother-daughter experience with you?" Anyway, she went to get her car, and it was a late film, so it was like midnight. And so I walked them down to the car, made sure they got there safely. And then we did stay in touch, but I never said to her, "Did you wonder why this blonde queen was seeing the Joy Luck Club with you?" And there you go. Never came clean to Diane Carroll. And we did remain friends. She lived a few blocks away from me. She was on Sunset when I was in West Hollywood. So we would visit occasionally. And that is how I became friends with Diane Carroll, all because of the Joy Luck Club. All right. There's your celebrity story for the day. All right, who's there? Okay, we got Pinsky. Hi, Pinsky, and Duran and Kometko are both saying hi to Charles Busch, and John Duran is saying hi to Steve Kometko. So they will be Thursday's guests will be Charles. No, today we have Charles Busch and we have John Duran, who is West Hollywood City Councilman, former mayor. And on Thursday, we have Steve Kometko and James Duke Mason, who is the grandson of James Mason and the son of Belinda Carlisle. So we have three generations of gays on Thursday, which I think is going to be kind of interesting. But today, I say this all the time, and I will say it till the day I die. There are people who really laid the path for me, who inspired me as a young, I can't say closeted because wasn't ever closeted, but young boy in a Boston suburb who made me think that you could have a career as a gay man in the entertainment industry, and inspired me more than he knows. And that is our first guest. I first saw Charles Busch. I fell in love with Charles Busch when I saw him in Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, and then saw him in Psycho Beach Party. I've seen him in so many places. We didn't become friends until probably like 15 years ago, 15 or so years ago, right after I started writing the column. And with a little anecdote is I believe I said something about him or something complimentary about one of his shows, and he wrote me and he thanked me, which only the classy people do. The classy people aren't like afraid. They just like very open. And he was so warm and so genuine. And there are some people that when you see them in person, they are exactly what you expect them to be. And then when you get to know them in person, they're even more than that. And so the next time I went to New York, Charles had said, well, let's get together. So I, just assumed we meet for coffee or lunch or something. And he gave me his address and said, come to the house, which really kind of surprised me. And somebody had told me, I don't remember who it was. I have an idea, but I don't want to say. Somebody had told me that Charles Busch is very seductive and he will just draw you out. You don't have to worry about being comfortable with him because he's just warm and giving. But really, without knowing it, you will slowly fall in love with him. And that is exactly what I did. And so I am happy, thrilled, and honored to join our guest, Mr. Charles Busch, from his lovely New York abode.
Oh my God! Well, you put a lot of pressure on me now. I've got to be seductive and nice and all sorts of things.
Oh no, be a bitch. I would love that. How are you?
Find out where I always forget to look up to where my camera is, and I know. Kind of Shirley MacLaine, kind of squinty-eyed.
Yeah, well, I try to look at the comments every once in a while to see if we have questions. And so friends are like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, I know, you just should look in the camera. We have bad camera skills. We're theater people, darling.
Yes. Although I tell you, it's so crazy with the kind of coronavirus vaudeville with everybody flying now. And I've been on so many TV shows, these kind of streaming things. I feel like it's the early days of television. So 1949.
Well, it's kind of like that mentality of let's go into the barn and put on a show.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Well, you had done, was it Seth Rudetsky's show yesterday for the Actors Fund?
Yeah.
And please, I keep reminding people, I'm not raising money. Buy a subscription to billymasters.com. It's $5 a month that keeps us employed. But if you want to give money to a good organization, actorsfund.org. Seth Rudetsky and his husband, James Wesley, started doing these twice daily podcasts. And Seth actually helped me set this up. And here we are. He said, look, doesn't matter. Just do something, entertain the kids. So that's what we're here doing.
Well, he's going really big with this. I think he's now having reunion shows of TV casts. I think they had the whole cast of Taxi on last night. And then he's starting tomorrow doing full 2-hour readings of plays incredible cast. I think they're doing
Wow.
more of the Heidi Chronicles with Joan Allen and Boyd Gaines, and I believe this Saturday at 2:00 we're going to do My Play the Allergist's Wife with me playing the leading character, and like I did it for the Actors Fund benefit that you came to a few months
Just
ago.
when was that? October, November?
When was it? It was before the world changed. This thing's got 1989 at this point, but I guess it was just last November. Yeah.
And I didn't realize until afterwards that Linda Lavin was really sick.
She was?
Yeah, she had a cold. She had a terrible cold.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't either until afterwards, and when she was leaving, because she didn't go to the party afterwards, but I saw her at the stage door, and I had told her friends of mine who had wanted to be there and couldn't. They were also sick, and she said, "I'm just going home. I'm lucky I got through this performance." But
I had no idea.
but how wonderful to see you playing the role. You ultimately, I mean, not really wrote for her, but certainly had her voice.
I did. Yeah, no, I basically I'd come up with the idea of the play. This is going all the way back now to 1998 or something like that, and I was working on it, and then I went to see her in a play called Death Defying Acts. There were a series of
Sure.
It was Woody Allen and Elaine May, and there was a third one. I can't remember who, but anyway, she was so, she's a brilliant actress. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, of course, well, she is the perfect actress for this part. And then from then on, I just had her in my head, and I really wrote the part for her. And she was so incredible. I mean, I owe her a lot. And, it was her idea last fall to do a one-night reading of the show for the Actors Fund in this Broadway house, and I assumed that she would want to play her part because she looks the same, really.
Yeah, right.
She could play it just as minute, but she thought it would be a kind of a fun event if I played her part and she played the mother, which was created by an actress named Cheryl Bernheim who passed away a few years ago. So and it was weird because it really wasn't a part that I had ever wanted to play. It's not really my movie pastiche style, or the kind of ladies that I play that are a cross between Susan Hayward and Greer Garson. This is a New York lady, but it was exciting to get a chance to do it, and it was a little weird too because I saw Linda play it so many times, and it was just definitive performance that I just had all her line readings, everything just stuck in my head. I remember them better than she did.
Mm-hmm.
And the tricky thing was I found that when I just forgot about that and just played the part, it was better. The couple lines, like if I get a chance to do it again, and I may on Saturday, lines that I really was just doing her from my memory, I would do a little differently because I couldn't really. She's got that strange, unique nasal quality that she can do and say a line, and you just either can do it or you can't, and so I just have to forget about it.
And I think that if you've seen it that many times and have that reading, that voice in your head, it's almost like Charles Busch doing an imitation of Linda Lavin doing Charles Busch's play. I mean, it's a circle, really.
In a way, though, when I played, I did a summer stock tour years ago of Auntie Mame.
Sure, I remember that too.
I know that movie by heart, and I know every one of Rosalind Russell's line readings. But it seemed perverse for me to not be Rosalind Russell and just to say the lines wrong. I mean, what's the point? So I really did use her interpretation as a template. But then, it's a wonderful part, Auntie Mame. There's a lot of heart to it and a lot of things to explore that ultimately I think it was my own lady, but through kind of the lens of Rosalind Russell. I don't know if that makes any sense or not.
Yeah, because I remember, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I saw it the final night in Ogunquit. It was later in the run. I wasn't in town for opening night. Well, I remember hearing about the first night.
although you should, in a way, to be at the first night, it was one of the great disasters. It's along with the Johnstown flood, and tsunamis in Indonesia with the great disasters, because it's a complicated play. It's scenically, and we were doing it with very little tech rehearsal, and these young kids, apprentices, and there was way too much production.
I remember it was beautiful.
Yeah, but we never got through the actual rehearsal. And a big statue toppled over and conked one of the apprentices on the head, and she was carried out on a stretcher. So it kind of ended the rehearsal. But the show was supposed to start at 8. Around 9:30, the audience was sitting there, and the producer came out on stage and announced, "We'll be beginning the show shortly. The actors are fearful for their lives." And it was so crazy, but we just soldiered on, and it was always very amusing too, because sometimes when you see spoofs of shows, disastrous productions, everybody's really kind of camping it up. But what was particularly funny was just everybody trying so hard to just do the play, and lovely character actress Jennifer Harmon playing Mrs. Upson.
Oh, right, I remember. And wasn't Max von Essen in it too?
Oh, we had a wonderful cast.
Yeah, you had wonderful people.
Mrs. Upson, the scene. Sometimes we would have the scenery, but they'd come in strange angles. But none of the props were on stage at all. Had to show me her family album, and this lovely actress, just with a straight face, she says, "Name. I would like to show you some photos of little Gloria. If I could describe them to you, there was one picture." Oh, brother, it was a crazy night. But,
it's funny. I remember David Drake, who took over Vampire Lesbians after you left. We had done a play, one of Ronnie Larson's lovely nude plays, and we had a porn star who had most of his scenes with me. And I think it was the first performance. David's in the wings. It's just me and this one person having a conversation. And he could not remember a single line. And I am supposed to be convinced by him to leave my boy there. And I'm like, now I know what you'd say is, why don't I leave him? Well, I can't because, and I do my whole speech and I'd wait and I'd say, and yes, I know it's complicated, but, and David's in the wings, hysterical, and I'm fighting for my life out there. And then the producer had the nerve to compliment the porn actor and said to me, you really should learn your lines. And
oh, we're going to kill him. Oh, my God.
Oh, it was bizarre. But I mean, we've all gone through that. But the point of Auntie Mame was that when I saw you do it in a gunquit, it was the end of the run. And I remember thinking to myself how you would put your own spin on it. Now, maybe because it was somewhat into the run, because you did 3 cities? 3? I don't remember.
A gunquit, and then we went to Sag
Harbor. Just 2?
Just 2. But I had done it actually a number of times before for one-night events. They were very exciting. They were also for the Actors Fund. And the very first time I played it, it was for a special event. Peggy Cass, the original Gooch, played her role.
Oh, my God. Now, how was that?
Oh, it's one of the great nights of my life, really. And she had been in retirement for quite a while, and she was physically fragile, but that wonderful raspy voice was absolutely intact. And she doesn't come on till the second act, and the audience is trying to see her. And it was this huge, like Broadway house, and they it was like basically full gay audience, and who knew every line of that movie. And so when she came out, it was such an ovation, and it was so wild because she hadn't played the part since she did the movie in the 50s, and we rehearsed it once or twice. Every line reading was exactly the same as the movie. And so
had she done it in the theater ever?
Yes, she did originally create the role in theater. And so every time she opened her mouth, no matter even if just any one word line, got an ovation. I mean, the show went for hours. I mean, and afterwards it was so touching. And she was a lovely person. And she really wasn't aware, oddly enough, of the love for her in that role, particularly by a gay audience. I don't know how she just wasn't that aware of it. And she said, "Oh, I feel like Maria Callas at the Met," and, and she died, I think, just about a month later.
Really?
Yeah, but it's kind of wonderful that she had this one last great triumph. Yeah.
Well, whose idea was it to cast her? Was it yours?
No, the whole thing was put together actually by a very good director named Richard Sabelico, and I don't know.
Oh, sure, I remember.
But he put it together, and it was really some cast that we had Maxwell Caulfield and there's Beth Howland and Charles Kimbrough and Lucy Arnaz and it was really quite a group. I think B.D. Wong played Ito, and then my nephew, who was 11 years old, I had cast as young Patrick, and he'd never even been in a school play, but he just was a natural, and I thought the part was that good, and he was a huge response from this audience, and I thought this is like a Shirley Temple movie, and I'm just the blonde third lead, and he was yeah. And when it was over at the party afterwards, he said to my sister, "Mom, would you hold onto this for me?" And it was a stack of business cards from agents and casting directors.
Wow.
It was really something. Yeah.
You've done a lot, speaking of that, you've done a lot of your plays as benefits for the Actors Fund. I remember you and Julie, wasn't yours and Julie's for the Actors Fund, or was that Broadway Cares?
Well, they often are in tandem.
They've kind of intertwined a little.
Poster right now, actually, on the wall.
Yeah.
It's from the Actors Fund.
Okay. You've done a lot of those for them. So obviously the Actors Fund means a lot to you. Tell people who don't know what the Actors Fund does.
The Actors Fund has been around for about 100 years at least. And it's a service organization that helps, well, they have many different programs, but they help not only actors, but everyone connected to the theater, from front of house, ushering staff, to backstage, the designers. All these people can benefit from, if they're in need, and can get money directly for them. I very dear friend of mine, McGann Robinson, very beautiful actress who created roles in Vampire Lesbians and Psycho Beach Party, and she died of AIDS. And during her this horrible last year, I mean, the Actors Fund sometimes really did help pay her rent. I mean, it's not a great bureaucratic organization. They have a free clinic also for. And
then there's a home. There's a home in New Jersey, which I didn't know about, that Seth talked about.
Yeah, it's nice too. I know.
Is it?
I went there one time.
So that's where we'll end up.
Well, Julie Halston and I were thinking about if we've done so many damn benefits for them. We ought to get adjoining rooms on the corner wing at this point. We should get something for our efforts. Yeah, they're a great organization.
You mentioned Julie Halston, and people obviously know Julie, and most recently from Tootsie, where she was fabulous. How did you two meet? I mean, I kind of know this fictionalized story in your book, Whores of Lost Atlantis. I assume it's somewhat accurate.
Well, no, actually, no. That was kind of made up. That was sort of made up.
Oh,
what happened was, but the idea is the same. Before I got into drag and did Vampire Lesbians, I had a whole nother career as a solo performer, as a monologuist, just basically what I'm wearing right now. And I booked myself all over the country because I had no management, doing these sort of monologues. And I performed a lot in San Francisco. And Julie and I have a mutual friend, Bobby Cohen, who went to summer theater camp with me and went to college at Hofstra with Julie. And he kept telling each of us, "Oh, you got to meet Charles. And he'd say to me, "You have to meet Julie Halston. She's the funniest girl in the world." And when anybody tells you, "Oh, you got to meet the funniest person in the world," you don't want to meet them.
Yeah, right.
This is going to be very loud and obnoxious. And she was. And so he somehow, Bobby is a real go-getter. And I was doing my show at this sort of gay performance center called Valencia Rose in San Francisco. And I was doing a run during the week. And they did, I think, sort of Monday nights, open mic night or special events. And Julie was working on Wall Street as a corporate librarian for a marketing brokerage house. And she had vague fantasies of being a performance artist, as she would say in her Long Island accent. We did this in San Francisco, this one night attempt, and it was terrible, just terrible. And then I met her afterwards, and we weren't taken with each other. So then, fade out, fade in. I got a chance to do my solo show at this small gay theater on this dark side street, and I was totally unknown in New York. No one's going to come see me. I didn't get reviewed, so I would be so desperate when like the weekly gay bar rag would be coming to the show or whatever. So I would just call everybody I know and say, "Would you, I'll give you free tickets. Can you somehow come to my little shows?" And the theater sat about 50. So at one point I had one of these magazines coming, so I called Julie Halston. I met her that one time, and she knows 1 million people. She filled up the house, and she was taken with me, and then I could sort of depend on her if I needed an audience. I need 10 more people, Julie. Well, then sometime
and this is way before the internet, we should let people know. It was a chore to get people. You actually had to call them or go to their houses.
She's brilliant at it. She knows 1 million people, and everybody likes her.
She is lovely.
Yeah, well, the ones who are speaking to her, because some people thought it was terrible, but but if you get her. So anyway, just to cut to the chase, then finally I was going to do Vampire Lesbians of Sodom in this bar in the East Village, bar, art gallery, performance space. And we did 2 performances with this actress who had worked with Charles Ludlam, who was a real downtown cult figure, Lola Pashlinsky, and she played the succubus opposite me. And we had a lot of fun for this one weekend. That was it. And then we really wanted to do a second weekend, and it was available. But Lola had enough and didn't want it. Boys in the cast would pee in cups because there's no bathroom and line them up. She didn't really go for it. And so I was
a rocky road.
I was desperate for a succubus. And every single girl, actress I knew, any flamboyant woman I know, my own sister turned me down. And the last on my list was that, oh my God, that girl, that Julie Halston. I mean, she knows people, but she's terrible. And I rather too quickly, she said yes. And then I said, well, have you ever been in a play before? Darling, I played Nina in The Seagull at Hofstra.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so we rehearsed it a few times in my living room with the cast. And
had she seen it? Did she come and see it?
The first weekend. But she was terrible, and she was getting worse. And finally, she could see her. She's a sensitive girl. She saw that the rest of the cast all had looks of horror on their face, each time we rehearsed it. So finally, she just stopped the rehearsal in my living room and said, listen, all of you, I know I stink, but you put me in a wig in front of 60 gay men, and I glow. And she did. She did. She glowed. And
you launched her career.
Well, I think what I did do, and she would agree, is that I think I gave her, in a certain sense, permission to be her outrageous self. There was a quote that I came across in college by Jean Cocteau, the French poet, filmmaker, that had a big influence on me. And it said, the quote was something on the order of, whatever it is about you that disturbs people, cultivate that, because that's who you really are. And I'm sure this is basis of your career, honey.
I know. But
Right?
you never put it in words like that but when you hear it, it resonates, obviously.
Yeah, it's what's original about you could be the very thing that some people think is unemployable or just wrong, but it might be what's really what makes you unique. And she, I think, had been given the message in college and various places to smooth out this Long Island accent and her kind of outrageous personality. And when I saw her do that performance piece in San Francisco, she was trying to speak in this sort of normal way, and it just came up like she was trying to be Joan London or something. It was
right.
weird. And so I think that I started, well, the next piece we did was called Theodora, Shepich of Byzantium, and
which I never saw.
Well, he only did it like 9 times, but that was the first time I actually wrote her a part, and she played the Dowager Empress Aunt Vulva, and that. So I thought, okay, she's so funny, just sitting with her talking about her mother and just her offstage personality. I started writing into the script her phrases and the way she would express herself. And that was the first time, even more than Vampire Lesbians, the first time that she could sort of be Julie.
Mm-hmm.
So funny. And from then on, I used to call her, her trip. That was sort of her trip, talking like this, and mm-hmm. So writing it in. And in a way, all the people in our original company back then, Theater in Limbo, each had a trip. They all were. And it was just happenstance that I asked these different people to put on this skit, really a sketch, that they all were such original, rather eccentric people that that it was a delight to cultivate them and write these roles for them and allow them to do what was unique about them. It was very
I think what's interesting is what you're saying, because many people I know have been in the same boat, that they've been in acting classes and told to bring down their personality, to stifle their instincts so that they could connect with, say, the text or the character or whatever. But then you find somebody like a Fran Drescher who really found her success when she actually was true to her voice. Yes, Jennifer Lewis, people like that. Yes. Lucille Ball, for instance.
Yes, and yet, I mean, Lucy is a fascinating case because she'd had this long career before I Love Lucy, and had been in movies. Well, I think she started being in movies around 1936, something like that. And I Love Lucy was until 1951, and the movies didn't really know what to do with her.
Right.
They sort of tried all these different ways of trying to make her a star, and she came off actually. When you see some of those old movies from the 40s, she seems a little chilly,
right?
And I guess it must have been frustrating for her knowing that inside her was this clown, but she didn't have the opportunity really to do it. And it is interesting when you watch her old movies, and as the 40s go on, you start seeing more and more colors of Lucy Ricardo, but it's not quite in focus. And then finally, when she's actually in charge with Desi, they figure out how to, get her to really do what was unique about her, and then she becomes the most beloved star in the history of television, I guess.
And again, interestingly, in her private life was not really like that. Not a laugh riot. She was funny, but she had this inside of her. It's another part of her life. As I've told people about you, as somebody who has spent time with you and loves you and has been seduced by you, I might add. While you are adorable, you're not really who you are on stage. You have this character on stage, and you're very real, particularly in your cabaret work, which you've been doing the last few years. But it's another aspect of your life. You're not always on, so to say.
I'm I don't know. I guess it's true for we all have different personas in life. Mm-hmm. Everybody, not just performers. It's everybody. We're one way with our family, maybe another way with our friends or whatever. But so I don't know. I mean, I've many dualities, I guess, maybe more than some people. But I'm young, I'm old, I'm male, I'm female. I can be the life of the party, and I can be kind of a recluse. I've got all sorts of I'm generous. I'm oblivious.
And speaking of being a little bit of a recluse, what has this whole like Corona situation been like for you? What is a Charles Busch life? I know recently, the past year, you've started cooking, adventures in cooking.
Yeah, well, in a way, my life isn't that different, to be quite honest, because I'm a writer, and I work at home in this.
Right, the same here.
Right here, and so basically, I'm home all day, so it really hasn't changed. However, I really do miss I miss the nights that I would look forward to going out to dinner with friends. Really, really, and yeah, I miss that. Or the nights that I would have people over and we'd read through a play or just get together and do things. And I miss that. Then of course I was supposed to. I had a whole tour planned in April of California to do a whole new cabaret act and all this material. Tom Judson, who is my musical director and arranger, and we put together this whole wonderful show of songs, and we were supposed to play L.A., Palm Springs, San Francisco, and Seattle, and it was all canceled. And then we had 2 dates in Florida in May that were canceled, and then 2 nights in that great theater town, Columbus, Ohio, and those are canceled in June. So hopefully,
a gay hotspot.
Evidently, Columbus, Billy. Columbus is the place to be.
All right, I'm putting it on the list. How is New York? You're a New Yorker by nature. You're in New York. And we keep hearing that it is ground zero. Have friends of yours been testing positive? Has anyone been sick? What's going on?
Well, knock on everything here. No one in my most immediate circle has been sick. Good. But other sort of my second level of acquaintanceship, some of them have gotten very sick, and it sounds just horrifying. Although it's so mysterious because there's so many different degrees of this illness. Some people it is just kind of like bad flu, and then other people get pneumonia and are in the hospital. And so yeah, I've been careful. At the same time, I think some people can get a little kooky on this thing too.
Yeah. I think too much on either end is really where the problems are. Yeah. The extremists of like, don't go anywhere. They're like sealed in their apartment.
You walk in the door, it's like Silkwood. If you walked out, you come in, strip everything off immediately. And, and many of my clothes are dry clean only. I can't do that. I can't do that. Yeah. Well, but I do think that the basic thing is that you just have to keep washing your hands whenever you go out and come back in, and don't touch. And if you're not wearing gloves, you just can't touch your face, And,
right, of course.
And I think those are the most sensible things. I guess, I don't know. I've been a little cavalier, I suppose, about when I brought groceries home and not.
Hey, look, I'm touching my nose. We touch ourselves all the time.
Yeah, we're always touching ourselves, Billy.
We are. I know. I was talking to a friend of mine who was saying to me that, like, when they go and buy things, since you mentioned grocery stores, that even when they bring everything home, even in cardboard boxes, they're scrubbing them down.
Yeah, I'm trying a little bit. I'm trying, but I don't know. I'm doing better. I mean,
I think it's whatever you're comfortable with in your level of, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. Just I really do not want to get this, and so far I've been pretty sensible. And I've been in a bit of a quandary with my older sister, who I'm very close to, and she lives here in the city, but just uptown. I'm down in the village, and she's a fragile little thing, but very eccentric. And she just when you ask her, well, what are you going to make for dinner? Oh, I had a big salad yesterday. So it's just, she worries me. And so I've been, for a while there, I was making these big vats of vegetable stew and stuff, and I was bringing it over to her, in Tupperware. But I don't really want to go on the subway now. It's
right.
it's so I'm in a bit of a quandary of what to do about her. And
Yeah, I think it's very hard. And I think, speaking of the subway, people have been criticizing New York for keeping the subway open, not realizing, as somebody who lived there and somebody who does live there now, these health care workers,
they have
that's
to,
how they get to work. There's no way to get around.
Or the people that are still manning your grocery store have to get home.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, you just can't do it. I feel, is the lighting just hideous on me?
No, you look stunning. As a matter of fact, I think I have too much lighting.
I keep sort of moving my chair. I'm thinking if I could avoid the certain shadows giving me a kind of weird thing going on here.
It's funny. I was mentioning to somebody that when I started doing this, you forget. Where I'm used to doing a lot of radio where you don't see yourself, so you're not self-conscious and you're just rambling. Or if I'm on TV, I'm talking to someone, so I'm not looking in the camera. Right. So it is a whole different skill set that those of us don't have.
I tell you, really, it's the early days of television.
Well, I think we're learning a new skill. Put it on the resume. So Saturday, you think you're doing Tale of the Allergist's Wife for Seth? Is that at 2 or at 8?
2 o'clock.
And do you know who will be joining you?
Well, I probably shouldn't be saying it, but what the hell? I'm hoping it may be Faith Prince and Andrea Martin and Richard Kind. But we're still kind of waiting for it. I'm not sure if Faith is absolutely 100% in or not. So
and speaking of which, I got an email today from LA Theater Works, who you've done a lot of your plays, audio versions, sort of like old radio.
It really is
and,
like old radio.
And for those of us old enough to remember old radio, by secondhand, of course.
Yeah.
But they are doing a lot of they're amping up their streaming. A lot of things are there for free. I'm trying to think. I guess Die Mommy Die was the last one you did for them.
Yes, because that was just last year. I've done The Divine Sister. I directed The Allergist's Wife for them. It was with Amy Aquino and Jo Beth Williams and Richard Kind. I've done a bunch of things. I did. I played Lady Bracknell in The Importance of Being Earnest for them.
That's right.
Yeah. No, they're a wonderful group organization. They just have a catalog of, I think, hundreds of these radio productions with fantastic star casts.
I would recommend. There's I've gone to a few of them live. Obviously, I was there for you, but I remember Swoosie Kurtz doing 6 Degrees of Separation, which was marvelous. I think it's latheaterworks.org, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. They're great.
And check them out. They're a good organization. They and I think the mission is just to preserve these plays and these performances, at least in audio form, because obviously there's only so much we can do.
Yes, and I guess to a lot of these, particularly classical literature, because they run from contemporary plays to
classics,
Shakespeare, and all sorts of classical work, and a lot of things aren't going to be made into movies, and so the only really way that you can hear these plays are through to it being audible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I just definitely encourage people constantly asking me what to watch, what to do, what to listen to. So that's another great resource. Are you a Netflix person? Are you watching things, binging things?
No, occasionally certain things. A lot of people say that we're in a kind of a golden age of TV drama now, and I see none of it. I just want I guess because I'm writing all day, that at night, if I'm watching TV, I just want to be so mindless. I have not missed, and I kid you not, Billy Masters, I have not missed one single episode in all of its 39 seasons of Survivor.
Is that true? You are a Survivor devotee?
I am. There's so many lessons that I've learned from Survivor. Lessons. In fact, I decided to take my pensions this year my acting pensions, because I thought, like Survivor, I don't want to be kicked off the island with an immunity idol. I want
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Survivor is a metaphor for my life. Yeah.
Have you met any of the Survivor alum?
I met a couple because I always want to know, like, how do you wipe your ass? Or, I want to know, like, the nitty gritty. Yeah. And
Well, they survive without toilet paper.
Well, I tell you, honestly, just the one thing that really bugs me with this crisis we're in, is the whole hoarding phenomenon. I mean, it's just, I guess, really is a dark part of human nature, of this kind of selfish thing of, people going in and buying up 100 rolls of toilet paper, and then the poor person who can't afford to buy in bulk is screwed. I just think that's terrible, and I wish that the supermarkets had been able to ration it out from the beginning. It's just not right. So
no, I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. Anyway, back to more fun.
Back to you, my darling. What are you writing? What are you working on?
Well, I've been working so long, and I basically finished this book I've been working on. I've been writing my memoirs, darling, my memoirs.
Well, you had to eventually.
Yes, and I worked on it for so long, and just really didn't know what structure it was going to be, or how much of my life I was going to tell, or what, and I basically am done, and I'm very excited about it. And
have you named names?
It's a very sexy book, Billy.
I bet it is. You've had a very sexy life.
In periods of my life, I was, during my struggling years. The thing was, really, a lot of young actors, when they're struggling, protect themselves by creating kind of a persona they do during their day job that helps them survive. And with me, it was the opposite. I always thought it'd be interesting if I stayed true to my own rather whimsical personality, and then see how I affect my surroundings. So in that way, any dreary experience I had was like being the star of my own wacky screwball comedy. So if I was going to clean apartments or be the receptionist in a zipper factory, if I just stayed true to me, it was always kind of amused me. And consequently, I had a brief foray, as a male stripper in Pittsburgh.
Are there photos of this?
Yeah.
Are there photos of this?
No, I wish there were.
Yeah, I wish there were too.
I was awfully cute. And
yeah, I've seen pictures of you when you were doing your play, and you look so young when you first started and were doing the college tours. You look so young and, dare I say, innocent.
Okay, well, that was what I was selling, honey. And, and then, I also, it's all in my book, darling. It's all in my book. Then when I was living in Chicago, I'm from New York, but I went to Northwestern University, and then after I graduated, I stuck around Chicago for 2 years, and trying to figure out a way to support myself while I pursued my fantasies of being a writer performer. And so there was a period where I worked for a modeling agency. Is this
a modeling agency?
As I was a call boy.
For
about 5 months, and that was fascinating. And I wanted to, it just really did change my outlook on gay and straight, and that some of this old grandfather, his kids and grandchildren would never imagine that this guy was messing around in my apartment for an hour of just a little bit of affection and tenderness from me. Because the thing is, and it really is true, I was this kind of very young looking, boyish,
absolutely,
innocent looking waif, and so I could get away with not doing that much sexual activity, because the guys who like that type kind of really just wanted affection, and I'm a kind of a born interviewer, and would just talk to them in a way that usually a hooker doesn't do.
Absolutely.
But I do think somebody who's real muscular, butch guy, generally speaking, the people who want somebody like that want hot sex.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I do think that I did a lot of vamping. An hour goes by very quickly.
And then, oh, I'd love to do more, but our hour's up.
Yeah, but I had fascinating experiences. Oh, I loved every second, and there's nothing so good as being paid in cash, is there?
No, nothing.
Suddenly there are boots to buy and suede pants and all sorts of things that you would never otherwise buy.
Well, you've got it. Why not at this point? And the cash won't last forever, but those boots just might.
Yeah, and the suede pants I wanted so bad.
Oh, really? Now, are there photos of that? Of you in the suede pants?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Have you not picked out the pictures for the book yet? It's the first thing I would do.
Really? No, that's the last thing I've thought of. I just hope I can sell it. I mean, I don't have a publisher yet, or I don't even have an agent. I had a wonderful manager for the past 30 years, Jeff Melnick, who was
I knew Jeff.
Huge part of my life. He's really
sure
family, and he just passed away
right
last November, and I still can't quite get my mind around it because he lived in Palm Springs, and I only saw him twice a year. He would once a year come to New York, and once a year I'd get out there. But I talked to him on the phone all the time. So it's kind of tricky when somebody dies who you don't see that often.
Because it doesn't affect your day-to-day life in terms of visual connection.
Yeah, like I feel like he's still there.
Right, waiting for the call.
Vacation. He's on safari in South Africa, which he liked to do, and so I keep waiting for him to come back. It's odd. I was so fortunate. He had a higher opinion of my abilities than I do,
which is a great quality in a manager,
and rather rare. I mean,
yeah.
Because I've never really pursued an acting career outside of my own work, but he wanted me to, and so one time he contacted the Royal Shakespeare Company in London to suggest that I play Juliet.
Why not?
But he never quite told me what their reaction was. But yes, they didn't jump. But really, all the major events of my career were his doing and his ideas. I mean, the movie of Psycho Beach Party was all Jeff's idea. I didn't think it was a very good one. I mean, I thought, oh, it's too theatrical and there's no movie here, and he kept pushing this idea and then pieced it all together and we made the movie. I owe him so much, and and he was impossible too. I mean, he could be. Sometimes I'd just be appalled when he'd tell me that the nasty things the arguments he would get into with someone, professional contact, and but he was just totally on my side.
And that is rare, as you said, to have somebody. Now, I see our next guest is here. I'm going to bring John Duran in briefly. Do you know John? You must.
No.
Okay, John Duran, our West Hollywood City Councilor and former mayor and boyfriend to my husband. Yes.
I've seen Charles Busch perform in Los Angeles.
Oh.
I would hope so. Probably at Rockwell.
Yes, I was at Feinstein's at Vitello's last year. I was supposed to be there next month. Yeah.
Well, both coasts there, John. You're a little soft. I know. I almost never say that to you. So, I know there's not much you can do about being soft, but if you could just speak up when you're there, use your theater voices, Charles and I do.
All right, I picked up my phone.
Okay, that's a little better. Yeah, well, angles are everything. Obviously, Charles and I know this.
Are you on a cell phone or a computer?
I'm on a cell phone because I couldn't figure out how to put it on my computer.
Oh, I would have emailed it to you.
It threw me off. I'm a baby boomer. I don't understand any of this.
That's okay, John. We love you. Look, so I got both coasts. So, Charles, I'm going to say goodbye to you. We will have you back. But thank you, Charles, for this hour of regaling us.
Well, I've had a ball, Billy Masters.
Well, you will come back and have the other ball next time. I swear. I adore you. Stay safe, and many thanks. I adore you.
Okay, see you later.
Bye, honey. Hello, my husband-in-law.
Yes, that is a very long story, Billy Masters.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that. But John, I wanted John on because I wanted somebody from the West Coast because I keep, obviously it's my home, one of my homes, certainly. And I keep hearing a lot of conflicting information that, the streets are deserted, people are still going out, that everyone's fine, but more police have been positive than anywhere else. So tell us what's going on in Los Angeles and West Hollywood specifically.
We had a 2 week head start over New York, and we're all watching what's happening in New York right now, and it's heartbreaking. I mean,
Yeah,
I have so many loved ones in New York. I'm sure you do as well.
sure.
And watching what New York is going through, it's just a disaster. We had a couple of weeks head start because we got to see what was happening in Italy, in
Yeah.
China, in other places, and we realized, oh crap, this is going to happen everywhere. And so those couple of weeks that we've instituted social distancing, shutting down here in West Hollywood, both Boys Town and the Sunset Strip have been closed now for almost 2 weeks. Here in California, we are starting to see, it may be too early to say it, but it looks like we may not have the same experience as New York.
Oh,
And I think it's a function of two things. One is time, and the other
mhm.
is distance, because LA is a horizontal city. We are not a
Sure.
vertical city like New York. We are not crammed at subway stops or subways. We are like one person to a vehicle.
Mhm.
There are parts of LA that are very dense. West Hollywood, Hollywood, Koreatown are all very, very dense communities. But for
But
the
not
most
New
part,
York
LA is
dense.
very spread out. And so social distancing is a little easier to do when you're a city that's 545 miles wide. It's a
Right.
little easier to do social distancing. So, I mean, our fingers are crossed. They're all saying the first week of April is going to be the worst of it. I guess we're all bracing ourselves. But for the most part, I think people are being compliant.
How about supermarkets and stocking and stuff? How is that all going?
A couple of weeks ago was really rough because people were panicked. As I heard Charles speaking before I came on, people were hoarding, people were panic buying, people were thinking it was either the end of the world or a zombie apocalypse, or
Mm,
I don't know what they were thinking. Martial law was coming, and it
right.
wasn't any of that, and it never had to be. But people's fears were engaged. Now, for the most part, the stores are stocked. People are, doing the 6 feet apart. They have, employees out there monitoring people. Somebody walks up that's a senior disabled. I've witnessed this twice now. People are like, let her pass, let her pass.
Yeah.
Or the old lady, she can barely move. She's not going to stand out here in line with all of us. Let her go. And I see a great deal of cooperation. It's really inspiring to watch how people are pulling together. Now we're at this place called, okay, now we've all been cooped up in our apartments for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Nobody's been interacting. And at some point, the reality is we're going to have to get back out there into community
Yeah.
in the presence of the virus. Like the virus isn't just going to go poof and
Right.
go away. Notwithstanding what Donald Trump was saying, that one day it just poof, it's all going to be gone. No, it's not going to happen. We, as the gay community, we know how to manage living with a virus. We've been doing it for 40 years, right?
Right.
We have not cured HIV. We've learned how to manage and work with it, how to
And
be
listen to our
positive.
doctors.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I'm telling people is, look, we need to start preparing for the day after. Here's what happened. It's a brand new virus. We didn't know how to handle it. There is no treatment. There is no cure. There are no antibodies. And it is really like culling the herd. It's just going through all of us at the same time. So we
Right.
had to do the most drastic remedy called shut it all down, which is what we did. We shut it all down.
Right.
We can't do that every year. And
No.
coronavirus will be back next year and
And
the
it
year
will
after.
mutate, which nobody
Just like
seems
the
to
flu,
understand.
it'll come back. So,
Right.
but we can't always be shutting down the entire economy. Instead, okay, now we've had our first shot at it. Next year, when the coronavirus season starts, we know we need to have lots of tests with labs with quick turnarounds that people can get tests, isolate them, figure out through contact tracing who they were exposed to, and pinpoint the quarantine and isolation rather than shutting down a whole city or a whole country. And we'll
Um,
get to
I
it.
I had sent you an image. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it, but I know West Hollywood was one of the first cities that made provisions for renters, people with
Yeah.
low income, people who were rented, that they would be protected. They couldn't be evicted. They couldn't have fines for late fees,
Right.
that really people were taken care of. And the day after this happened, someone I know got a letter on their door. I wouldn't say threatening, but sort of urging you to keep paying your rent. So, what do people need to know? Because the other thing is, I worry for people who are on limited income and not working that if they don't pay their rent, when this is all due, great, you'll owe 4 months' rent at once. And who's going to be able to pay that?
Right. Really great question. So here's what we're doing. We're constructing a social safety net, and it's being done state by state, county by county, city by city. It's this whole patchwork of protection. West Hollywood, Los Angeles, and now the whole state of California have adopted eviction moratoriums for the time being. The most common question I get is, John, can't you just cancel rents? I mean, like,
Yeah,
make them cancel because nobody's bringing in any money. And the sad truth is, no, we don't have the
right.
power to just intervene in the middle of a contract between a landlord and a tenant. State of California can do it. The United States can do it. But until they act, we have to provide a safety net in the meantime. So these moratoriums, West Hollywood has 6 months. LA just did 12 months yesterday. We're probably going to do 12 months also.
Sure.
Means that for a period of time when the emergency is declared over, a 12-month period of time will begin to run to give you 12 months to figure out how to pay back suspended rents. You
Okay.
know, I mean, at this point, are we all going to be cooped up again through most of April? Probably. It's starting
Yeah.
to feel like that's probably going to be the case. But hopefully, come May, June, July, we start to all figure out, okay, now it's time for cleanup and recovery. Now we've got to clean it up, and we've got to get the community back online, businesses back open, restaurants and bars back open. And it's going to be a slow rollout, and it's going to take time for people to get back to their jobs and to have income flowing once again. So,
Yeah, I look at it from the other side. I come from a family that were landlords. And I know you can have the biggest house in the world, but you may have a mortgage, you may have utility bills. So it is a trickle effect that people being out of work can't pay rent. They don't pay rent. The landlord can't pay the mortgage. The mortgage
right,
doesn't get paid. I
right.
mean, it's just a
It's
huge
all tied
mess.
together. Here in
Yeah.
California, our governor, Gavin Newsom, got the four big banks, Wells Fargo, Citicorp, Citibank, and Chase, to
Mhm.
agree to suspend mortgage payments for 90 days for all property owners.
Oh,
So
wow.
the four big banks in California, I don't know about all the others if they'll follow, but the four big ones have all suspended mortgage payments for 90 days, giving landlords some breathing room, knowing that there'll be a lot of tenants tomorrow that are not going to be able to pay the rent.
Sure.
So, everyone's just going to have to be flexible. This has never happened in the history of our nation, right?
No.
We've had a disaster, Katrina in New Orleans or 9/11 in New York, but we've never had an event that affected all 340 million of
Nationwide.
us at the same time.
What about, I know in West Hollywood, huge business with takeout food. So many people don't cook, they get takeout food. Now, there is a lot of concern how healthy, how safe takeout food is. And what I've been telling people is go to the places that you know, that you are comfortable with, that you want to keep supporting through this, because again, it's our best guess. You have to decide what you're comfortable with. What about out there?
Yeah. Here's the fascinating part. I'm a typical WeHo gay boy, right?
Yes, you are.
Before this all started, you know what was in my refrigerator? Ice.
Oh, I know it.
And maybe a leftover Dr. Pepper. I had no groceries. I
Right.
had no fruits, no vegetables. I would eat out 2 or 3 times a day,
Sure.
my favorite restaurants, my favorite delis. I really didn't. This virus has forced me to do a couple of things. One, shop for groceries.
Yeah.
And two, my refrigerator is full, my cupboards are full, and I'm having to prepare my own meals for the first time in like 40 years. Okay,
Sure.
so what's amazing to me, I would probably drop $100 to $120 a day in food, you know? Now all of a
Mhm.
sudden I'm like buying groceries for the week for maybe
For the
$150.
same amount of money. Right.
Yeah, what I used to spend in one day, I'm now spending in one week, and I'm thinking,
Sure.
wow, I really blew a lot of money eating out. So I've learned, okay, maybe some of this, I'm learning something about what I can do. At the same time, eating alone is not a thrill. I
No.
miss my favorite hangouts. I miss going to Bossa Nova. I miss Cafe de Trois,
Oh,
although they've been closed.
no, you know how I feel.
But I just miss going to the local hangouts to see people, to see community. That's going to return at some point. In the meantime, I think takeout is as safe as it can be. There are guidelines that when you have the takeout food come in, get rid of
Mhm.
the original containers, put it out on a plate that you've already cleaned. Always wash your hands. The washing the hands with soap and water, I learned this. I didn't know this. Soap breaks down fatty tissue, and fatty tissue is what's required to keep the virus intact. Soap
Oh,
will dissolve the outer lining of any virus. It
oh,
dissolves it on site. So that's why soap and water is the best remedy, even more than antibacterial hand sanitizer. Plain
I
old
didn't know
soap and
that.
water will destroy the outer lining of a virus. Who knew? This
No.
is a really important information. Now, my mother has always told me, don't forget to wash your hands. And it was like, yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
I have a fork and a knife I'm not going to worry about. Suddenly, a brand new practice is in place. I'm going to be washing my hands frequently, generally from this point forward, because it kills viruses, just plain old soap. So,
Good.
I think the one great thing about all this, because I've been on phone calls all day, a
Hmm.
lot of the bartenders, bar packs, and servers in West Hollywood are now organizing themselves to take care of one another. And we're
See,
seeing
yeah,
that happen, I think, all over the country. But one of the things where the gay community has a leg up, we've done this
yeah,
before.
absolutely.
We,
We've
we have
learned how to
lived
mobilize.
we have lived in fear watching our friends drop left and right?
Hmm.
We have had to create organizations like Aid for AIDS to pay for rent and food for people who were sick. We had to create our own guidelines around safer sex practices. We had to create our own culture, our own organizations. We did all this. So
Yeah,
what we're doing here in West Hollywood, we're just repurposing our existing organizations like Project Angel Food already
right.
delivers hot meals. Started out delivering hot meals for people with AIDS.
And
Now
they
it does
still are
cancer.
working.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden we're just repurposing them to deliver hot meals to seniors, others who are incapable of going out during this period. The Alliance for Housing and Healing started as Aid for AIDS when a drag queen in West Hollywood named Alexis decided to have a drag show in her living room on Huntley Drive to raise money for her friends who couldn't pay their rent. That started 35 years ago. Well, now it's the Best in Drag show is the
Hmm.
biggest fundraiser for the Alliance for Housing and Healing every year.
Yep.
So we're repurposing that organization to help us set up systems for people to do peer-to-peer fundraising to help others who can't pay their rent or need medication or need food. So we've got these systems already in place that we built for the last epidemic that we're
Right.
able to take care not only of ourselves, but teach other communities, hey, we did this. You know, you just learn to live not in fear of getting infected or dying, but you learn to live in hope that it's going to get better someday and not everybody's going to die. And we can be bigger than and stronger than this virus when we band together. So,
And what
in many
about
ways,
people who
gay
are
people have so much to teach.
HIV positive? How much more at risk are they? Because obviously they are compromised. There are different levels. I don't want to lump
Right,
HIV people together. There's
right.
asymptomatic, whatever. But
Yeah, I think it depends on the state of your immune system. Like I've been
okay.
undetectable for 20 years. For 20 years,
Hmm.
I've been undetectable and HIV positive. My T cells are at 750. I'm strong. I'm healthy. I'm working out. I'm actually at less of a risk than somebody with cancer right now who's
Oh,
undergoing cancer treatment, right? Or somebody with diabetes or
or
other
respiratory
illnesses.
illnesses.
Completely. Asthma, you're
Right.
more at risk than being HIV positive. So it's a different set of facts. So I actually think it's more an issue of compromised immune systems rather than being just HIV positive. That's not a definer, I think. But it's really fascinating to watch how LGBT people are responding to all this in ways that I hate to say it, but the hysterical, dramatic community were actually the voices of sanity and reason at this moment
Yeah, right. Isn't that
because
funny?
we've gone through it. Like we've lived in the face of plague for most of our adult lives and figured out how to manage it. A lot of our heterosexual friends and allies, they've never confronted something like this,
Mhm.
and they're tending to go over the top. Over the top, like every human contact is possibly deadly. No, it's not.
Yeah,
It's
I have a
not.
friend that actually is very concerned and keeps posting, if you go out and walk with a friend, you're stupid and you're taking this huge risk. I'm like, or you can be smart take the walk, but just walk like 6 feet apart. It's
Yeah,
not that
yeah.
hard.
And odds are the person, if you're walking with somebody you live with, you're already living with them.
Well, living with is, but I have one of my closest friends who I grew up with lives, I'm here at my parents in Boston, lives like 4 blocks away. And she had bought some groceries, brought them, left them on my steps, and then I brought them in fine. She said, when it gets warmer, we can take walks. I said, I would. And I'd just be 6 feet apart from you, but we can talk
Yeah.
and at least be near each other. Is that
Right.
safe, do you think?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
We've had both Grindr and Tinder are
Yeah.
located in West Hollywood, right? They're both headquartered in West Hollywood. And people are like, you need to shut down the sex apps. Okay, two things. One, I don't have
You
the power.
can't.
I don't have the power to shut down internet communication. But two, even if I did, let me remind people the story of the bathhouses. Because when AIDS first
Please.
hit, Dianne Feinstein shut down all the bathhouses in San Francisco.
That's true.
Los Angeles kept the bathhouses open because they knew it'd be a place where people that were congregating did not necessarily identify as gay. It was man-to-man sex action. They needed to get HIV information. They needed to
Right,
get
they were
acclimated to
informing.
condom use. They needed to be educated, and the
Right.
bathhouse turned out to be a place where that could occur. What I'm seeing with the sex apps, Grindr and Scruff here in West Hollywood, a lot of people on their statuses say chat only, isolated,
Right, I noticed that too.
quarantined. And the message is, I'm not hooking up, but I'm still here to talk and chat because we still need to stay connected. And me myself, I use it now just to chat with people. Hey, how you doing? How you holding up? Are you okay? God, I'll be glad
Right.
when this is over. Because that basic need to interconnect with normalcy and interconnect with people in our community, especially knowing they're on the same block or 2 or 3
Mhm.
blocks away,
Right.
it's an effective tool in the midst of all this coronavirus. So I understand people's fear. They just want to stop it. I'm starting to tell people, shift your thinking because it's not going to go away for years. Right. Shift your thinking instead to managing risk, practicing things that are going to keep you mostly safe. We're going to have to, at some point, get out of our homes and go back into community and go back into society with new practices and methods to keep us safe from viruses. But the viruses aren't going away. HIV
Right.
is still here. The flu is still here. We
Right.
thought we defeated polio, and it just made a resurgence 3 years ago. Part of the human existence, human culture. I mean, can't avoid it. Viruses, germs, and bacteria are going to live among us. So get used to it.
Well, it's like those billboards where you'll say herpes is back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't know it was gone. Who told you it was gone? You just don't do stupid things. And if you get it, okay, you get it, you will manage it.
Yeah.
But obviously, people watching, don't be hooking up. Don't invite someone over to your house or go and meet in a park or whatever. That would be stupid. I'm not a judgmental person. I also am, but I also would not like to hear that it was illegal, that if they heard you hooked up, they're going to fine you or cuff you or whatever.
Yeah, that would be
so,
really cool.
It's hard. I believe in being smart, but I also believe in freedom.
So let me ask you, Billy, on your show, can I talk about sex just a little?
Oh, of course you can.
Okay, because this is something I noticed New York is doing, and we're starting to do it here in West Hollywood and Los Angeles too.
Oh, this is about your post. Yes, I saw your post.
Yeah. Oh, you saw it. There will
I saw it, but tell them.
We need to get back into community. One of the things with HIV, the bodily fluids that transmit it are blood and semen, right? We know that.
Mm-hmm.
With corona, no virus has been found in any semen or vaginal fluids, only in saliva. So with HIV, we told people kissing was completely safe. You can have deep French kissing with HIV. Not the same thing with corona. In fact, it's the most likely way to transmit corona is through saliva and deep kissing. So we're just going to have to adjust, again, our practices based on science and fact and not on fear. I mean, I know people during AIDS, the early years, that just became completely celibate for a decade.
Sure, I do too.
They're miserable. They were miserable because it can't cut off all human connectivity. So at some point, I know this is not the time. People, don't get me wrong. It's not the time. Like Billy says, it's not the time to be hooking up, not the time to be engaging in casual sex, because we have a virus. It's deadly. It doesn't really discriminate out there.
We don't really know anything, really.
Right.
But this is like those early days of AIDS where we thought you were going to get it from sharing a toilet or a cup.
Remember?
Of
And the
course, I
bars pretty
remember it
much emptied
vividly.
out. They emptied out. The bars emptied out, and people weren't going out anymore. Then it became, oh, it must be poppers. Poppers must be.
Oh, that was the first thing. Of course, it
Yeah,
was
remember?
cancer from poppers. I have a
Yeah.
friend who enjoys, he is more of an oral provider, shall we say. And he's like, well, is it safe for me to do this to people? I said, well, do you know if the person didn't spit on their hand and touch their genitals first? Because you don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
There's
You
a
see, that would
lot
be,
of,
yeah. If somebody was, let's just use your example, the top, right,
yeah,
had corona, coughed into their hand,
there you go.
placed their hand on their unit, right, and now
Yeah,
you're performing oral sex,
that's
that
what
would
I'm
be a
saying.
way to transmit it. A condom would interrupt that, right?
Sure it
I mean,
would.
if your friend in your
As long as
example
you didn't
wanted to
touch
be
the condom.
safer, yeah, yeah. So there are practices, but I think, if you're the top in your scenario, the guy who's performing oral on you is putting saliva on your stuff.
There you
Again,
go.
that's a problem. Then, if you
That is.
decide after the oral sex to go urinate, all of a sudden you've got the transmission of corona. So
Right,
I think that's the thing is, after all these sex practices, soap and water, use a
right,
condom if possible. Those are the kind of adult conversations that need to occur, not, let's just not have sex anymore.
right.
We've got to be
And I
realistic.
think, again, I want to just tell people this, we're making conjectures. Neither of us are doctors. And we're going with the information we have, which the doctors don't have a lot either. If you lived through the AIDS epidemic, I came out in 86, I guess. I think 86. And so AIDS had already propelled at a certain point then, but I was young enough to have heard
Right.
when people were scared, when people didn't know if it was airborne, if it was saliva, if it was
Right.
blood, if it was touch.
Yeah.
People wouldn't touch people in AIDS wards. And so I have a friend that was just in the hospital and they're keeping the corona wards separate from the other hospital wards. I had rotator cuff surgery. The emergency room was in the basement. No, excuse me. The surgical rooms were in the basement and the ER was on the first floor. You didn't get into contact. And I'm like, boy, this sounds like what I heard was going on in the 80s.
Yeah. I came out in 78, so I was
Okay.
there for the early days.
Right.
And, people were afraid of it being out there casually transmitted. That wasn't the case. This time, it is the case.
Right.
Right? This time, corona is casually transmitted by droplets,
Right.
sneezes, and coughs. It's not, however, aerosolized, and that's a
Right.
difference. It's not just free floating out in the
Blowing
air.
in the wind. Right.
Right. It gets ejected through cough or sneeze. It can land on a surface, and we think it can live there for 2 to 3 days. Okay,
Right.
so that's the reason. Again, we can't be sanitizing every surface we come in contact with. We can only sanitize our hands, wash our hands, and avoid touching the face.
Well, which
Because
I
that's the other
constantly
thing.
do.
Yeah. The virus has got to go in the mouth or the nose or the eyes. It
Right.
doesn't penetrate the skin. Another really important fact that's important in deciding how we manage risk moving forward.
Cool. John, I adore you. We have so many people who have been texting in. People like Ted Hardwick, Carlise just texted, Kenny Moore, Byron Batista. They're all just saying what a great job we're all doing. Look, we will have you back. We will keep informing people. We want to be here. Look, the reason I'm doing this, I'm not raising money for anyone. Obviously, I keep saying, go to billymasters.com if you've got $5 a month. It keeps me employed. But it's really about keeping people entertained, giving people something to do, and maybe some information.
Yeah, very, very true. When these bartenders locally in West Hollywood get their virtual nightclub off the ground, which is something they're working on, we're going to have entertainers on, Billy Masters. We're coming
Yes,
to you,
well, I was talking to Jason Beers from Mickey's, so
Nice.
I am keeping in the loop. I'm thinking of all the people that you and I know who are really the club owners, managers, bartenders, barbacks, strippers, whomever they are. These are our people, really. We are in that business, for better
Yeah.
or for worse. And
Yeah.
they're going to be, look, but I just keep thinking about hairdressers, waiters, barbacks who are all out of business, who are on the brink of poverty as it is. And it's going to be really tough.
It's going to be a tough few months, but you know what? We'll get through it.
I
We,
hope
as a
so.
people, have faced and stared down viruses and death before. We'll get through this one too.
Well, I certainly hope so. John Duran, I adore you. You know, we are family.
We are
And
husband-in-law.
exactly. And please be safe. We'll have you back on again. Everyone
All right.
out there, on behalf of me, John, thank you. I love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Everybody out there, please be safe, be careful, have a good time, but within reason. We will be back on Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We have Steve Kometko, formerly of E! News, and so many other things. We have so much to talk to him about. We have James Duke Mason, Belinda Carlisle's son, James Mason's grandson. We'll have 3 generations of gays. Perhaps we'll have a 4th if any of you want to call in. And we will see you later. Please be safe. Play safe if you are playing safe. And God bless. Bye, guys.